Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us here on Facebook Live. This is going to be a pretty interesting discussion here as we talk about gangs in New York, specifically the Trinitarios gang, after reporting for the past couple weeks now on the Trinitarios in the case of Justice for Junior, Lisandro Guzman Feliz, the 15-year-old who was killed at the hands of Trinitarios members. So we have quite the panel with us today. We have James Ford, of course, who's been reporting extensively on this case, Manny Gomez, private investigator from Black Ops, and Elias Hussein, the president of the Correctional Officer Benevolence Association. So we'll get to all of them this morning, but I want to start with James, who has been reporting on the case of Junior. Before we get into the conversation about gangs, I just want to get an update on what's exactly happening today in court, where we're going to be actually finding out the indictments against these 12 individuals.
Right. Those indictments will be unsealed by the Bronx District Attorney. What's particularly fascinating is there are 12 suspects in this case. All 12 will be there. And in fact, even as we speak, it's happening now. All 12 in court, the indictments being unsealed. This is a remarkable occurrence, coming as it does almost exactly a month after the crime took place, the murder of Junior Guzman Feliz. It is not I do not know at this point if Junior's mother is going to be there. Mm-hmm. To my knowledge, she is. And just reaction from the community, as we have seen for the last 4 weeks, should also be significant.
It's very interesting when we talk about the Trinitarios. There's the suspects on your screen, all 12 of them. But let's talk about the Trinitarios gang. And some people have been asking us the last couple of weeks, where did this gang come from? Why all of a sudden are we hearing about this specific gang now? Besides, the Junior case, there were a few other cases that have popped up in recent weeks. So let's throw up some information just about the Trinitarios so you all have some information about them. They were actually founded in 1992 on Rikers Island to protect Dominican inmates, and we'll talk to Elias about that. The gang actually spread throughout the prison system, and then as those inmates were released one by one back onto the streets, that's how they became a street gang. And their weapon of choice, unfortunately, since 1992, has been the machete. So let's talk with Elias about this gang. And Elias, you've been in the correction department for quite some time.
Yes.
How many years?
30 years.
30 years. In 1992, were you aware of the Trinitarios gang and how they were forming?
In 1992, well, look, the Trinis as we call them, they're new to you guys. None of these gangs are new to correctional officers. Mm-hmm. They all started in jail. Most of the gangs started in jail. So, no, we're not new to them. You guys are new. We've been dealing with them from the very beginning, from the time that they've been formed. The New York City Department, we have a gang intelligence unit, and we work in connection with the NYPD gang intelligence unit. So we've known about these people for a while. They're not new to us.
But how did they, when they were released one by one onto the streets, maybe Manny can answer this question. Manny, when they were released one by one, it became a street gang. So they start in Rikers, they go onto the streets. How were they communicating? Because their leader was still in jail. How was he communicating with those that were on the streets?
So that's a good point. The leader that they have in jail right now, Diego Suarez, is not the leader of the entire gang. The actual leader of the entire gang is a guy named Flaco Veneno, which means skinny poison. His name is Ediberto Santana. He's currently out on the streets now. Diego Suarez is the leader of the Trinitarios group called the Southeast, which runs Manhattan and sections of the Bronx, and they have a small section in West Brooklyn. So we don't have the actual leader of the Trinitarios. We have one of the three leaders. There's 3 sets in New York.
But this was and I think you should understand that because they're in jail, don't mean that they don't make phone calls. I mean, we have people who run a complete organization from behind bars. One of these guys actually raised enough money to bail himself out by running a drug business while he was on Rikers Island in jail, raised more than $75,000.
That was a
and
Trini?
bailed himself out. Yes. I don't know if he was a Trini, but he
that was a Trinitario. Actually, they have in the organization, they run parties where they raise the money to bail their members out.
I mean, the Times had an amazing article today about the Trinitario saying that once they were all back on the streets, they actually started to collaborate and form at the Marcy houses in Brooklyn, then spread over Upper Manhattan, the Bronx, Queens, Long Island, and then throughout the East Coast, places like Tennessee and Florida.
Yes.
So how many members would you say they have?
Well, right now in Rikers, it's estimated at 1,000.
At Rikers?
In Rikers right now. And that's just on the island, not even counting the boat. Now, and that's from my investigation in the past 5 years. What I do know for the city, their numbers are right now about 3,000. And that's spread out between Manhattan, the Bronx, and again, Brooklyn. All right. And again, this gang is growing systematically. In Long Island alone, there's about 800 of them as well. So we're talking about for the state, from what I've seen, and because I've known some of the members, I've been investigating them and getting them incarcerated. For the statewide, we're talking about 8,000 to 9,000 statewide.
Right, and there's all they're in New Jersey as well.
Yeah, actually, they've infected Hudson County jails. They've infected from all the way from the GWB to Newark. So in Jersey alone, you're talking about another 5,000.
And you'll recall some of the 12 whose indictment is being unsealed today. There were 6 that had been arrested in New Jersey, and they immediately asked for extradition to be waived so they could come to New York. Why? We've talked about this before.
And that's a good point. And the reason why is because the Trinitario presence in Rikers Island is so huge that they're safer in Rikers. This is why they pleaded to come to New York. Because in Rikers, you have 50 members, gang members, usually in one cell block with one correction officer and one in the booth.
Is that accurate?
That's 100% accurate.
Okay? And you had those 50 members intimidating and bullying the actual correction officer. All right? And things like this occur. And they know they manipulate the system. To be honest with you, they run, I would say, about 35% of Rikers.
Well, could we throw the picture up of them actually in Rikers? 12 arrests that James was reporting on, and throughout Pix 11 we've been reporting on. But 3 of those members were actually put into a specific unit. These 3 right here on your screen were placed in a unit by themselves.
Yes.
Which in a unit, Elias, correct me if I'm wrong, that usually houses 50 inmates. So 3 inmates.
Yes, that unit that they're in hold anywhere from 30 to 50 inmates.
So let's talk about that, because
So they're the only 3.
people
that's
were
housed
outraged
in
to
that
see them get preferential treatment. We hear Manny talking about how they're safer in Rikers Island. Everybody is entitled to due process and protection. But why would these 3 be singled out and put into a unit by themselves?
unit. Well, they're not the only one. I mean, out of the 11 or 12 that we have, these 3 were in this particular jail on Rikers. 1 was in this jail.
But these
2
are in a
was
unit by
this jail.
themselves.
But they're all in a unit by themselves. Wherever we have them, wherever they were placed or housed, they were placed and housed by themselves. Which the problem for us as correctional officers become, they're housing them like that to protect them from the other inmates. The problem that we're having is we're not protected.
Meaning what? Why are
Correctional
you not
officers
protected?
are not protected because we're exposed to them. So just recently, one of them threw a cup of urine in the face of a female officer. Just recently, another one threatened to kill a correctional officer. So what I'm saying is we are still exposed to them. These people should not be housed the way they're housed, but unfortunately, we have a mayor and we have a commissioner who's changed the rules completely in the last 4 years on how we deal with these particular people. In the past, we would take these people and we would actually separate them, but they would be locked in. They would be locked in and they would be locked down because they've already shown, you've already looked at the video of what they did to this young man in the Bronx, so they've already shown you their respect for life or their propensity for violence. So why would you treat them as if they're not violent?
See, but you nailed it right on the head, all right? We need to have them isolated. They need to be put in maximum security, 23 hours a day lockdown.
Absolutely.
So that you can keep the correction officer safe.
Yes.
And that you can get control. Right now, there is no control. They're walking around doing drug activities. They're walking around slashing correction officers, beating them. And just to remind you, it was about 4 months ago, they broke the jaw of a correction officer on film. And that was another Trinitario. The COs are not safe. They are running the show there.
Unfortunately, look, I don't have a choice but to be who I am. Unfortunately, look, we have a mayor who changed the rules. It's no secret. He changed the rules in the jails when he became mayor. He eliminated.
But this is something that hasn't been
He
seen.
eliminated.
where three members of a crime are put into a unit by themselves. I haven't seen that before.
This is not new. You haven't seen it.
But we're just
we
hearing
have-
about it, and
under normal circumstances, this
it
is
seems like they're
called-
protecting the inmates more than they are the correctional
They
officers
are.
in this specific
But under
case.
normal circumstances, this is called CMC,
Okay.
closely monitored cases. When someone of notoriety gets arrested, we put them in areas where they are pretty much isolated, depending on what they did. So this is not uncommon or unusual. It's just this particular group of people and what everybody has viewed them doing is what the problem is. They just, the problem that we're having in jail is that under this commission, under this mayor, they would take 50 Trinitarians, 50 Bloods, 50 Crips, because for us it's a gang problem. It doesn't matter whether it's the Trinis or whether it doesn't matter. The agency is housing them the same way. They're putting them all in one house. The officer that got slashed the other day, he was in a house that's called a blood house.
Right.
More than, out of the 50 inmates in that housing area, 99% of them are Bloods, and if they're not, they better say they're Blood. So as opposed to the way we've traditionally done it, where we would break them up and put maybe 10 Bloods, 10 Crips, 10 Trinis, 10 Latin Kings, and we'd put them together, which forces them
So this is another
to
one. that's-
live a little bit more peaceful.
I hear what you're saying. This is another one of the members who is in another unit now. So he's one of the 12 arrested
Yes.
in this case, but he's in the general population. So why put him in general population but not everybody else?
I can't speak to whether he's in general population or not.
Well, there's an inmate sitting right next to him.
No, he is in general population.
That-
I was
I
actually
can't-
at Rikers the other day, and I know that for a fact.
But are you saying that if we had the kind of separations that we had before, we wouldn't have this situation of
It would not
CMC that
be,
we're seeing
it
now?
would not be to, the violence would
Right.
not be to the extent that it is, because that is one of the ways that we controlled the violence.
Right.
And
But would this separation of these three suspects have to happen, let's say, if
the way we've done it before, these three people would be put in what's called punitive sec. They would be locked down. There would be this
Solitary.
movement and things that they have, and then we're going to get into it, because punitive segregation and solitary confinement is two different things. We ain't going to get into that argument
No,
today.
I understand that, but we do need some type
We
of-
would separate them, and they would be on lockdown.
And we've had lively discussions about that in the past, I know. So let's also just talk, some people are asking questions right here on Facebook, where was Junior's protection in all of this? How did nobody protect him? How did nobody know these members were on the streets? So let's show the video right here. And James, let's talk about the what exactly happened that night, because these Trinitarios members were on the streets, they used machetes, they were out for some sort of vendetta. What do you know?
Right. So it's the night of June 20th, right? By all accounts, this is a case of mistaken identity. Now, we do know that Junior Guzman Feliz, good kid, he was a police explorer. He's a kid in the Bronx, a normal, popular kid, so he knows a lot of other young people,
Right.
some of whom were involved in gangs. We know that. I mean, his mother has said so.
Right.
He was not, and apparently a crew of Trinitarios mistook him for a Trinitario gang member. There was apparently an incident the night before involving a case where some of the same 12 were being indicted today saw Junior with another gang member wanted to from a rival faction of the Trinitarios, and Manny knows a lot about this. So jump in
Yes.
if I'm getting anything wrong.
You got it right.
And they ended up attacking Junior's friend. The friend asked Junior for help. Junior sort of froze, and he was sort of marked at that point as possibly being involved with a rival Trinitarios faction, even though he was not. The next night, all that happened, and we know the rest.
Could we
It's
roll?
terrible.
Can we roll that video one more time? Because I just want to showcase the number of people that were on the streets here. So for people who aren't familiar with the Trinitarios, their pattern is a crowd armed with machetes and knives hunt down, swarm their victims, stabbing and slashing them multiple times, which is what we saw here. The question is, were these individuals, Manny, known to police,
Yes.
and for what?
Well, Jose Munoz, which you see on the video holding the black machete, which is actually the lead killer in them, he was involved with the Hans Suarez stabbing back in 2012.
Which Pix11 reported on.
That's
We worked
exactly
on that
correct.
together.
And actually, Pix11 has the video of him being one of the individuals chasing Hans Suarez. Now, Darcel Clark, the Bronx District Attorney, knew this. I brought that to their attention. Not only that, I brought his picture of him in court supporting the other Trinitarios that were captured. This is going back to 2012. He's involved in 3 murders that I'm investigating.
So how is he still on the street?
You know what the problem is that nobody would listen. Nobody would listen until Pix11 showed how heinous and vicious this video was. And I hate to say this, but if it wasn't for us witnessing the death of him being stabbed and the fear in his face, this would have gone unknown again. Because every year, in every borough, we have between 15 and 17 murders committed by the Trinitarios. And it goes without saying.
Just to add to that, 2017, the NYPD turned over 65,000 people to the New York City Correctionals. But would you believe that out of 65,000, 47,000 of them have been rearrested or arrested at least 9 times in that year? So when you ask the question, why would they be back in the street?
But in his case, it's three murder arrests?
Yeah, he's been involved in 3 murders. He's seen on the video. Pix11 has the video of him running after Hans Suarez.
And if they're
he's
not
on it.
remanded and they have a bail and they make bail,
Yep,
then he's
but he
going
was
to be-
never
So
arrested.
it's
I
actually-
gave them the information. Never.
That's
And I
even
wanted to
worse.
bring up the
He should
fact
have
that
never died, Junior.
I wanted to think he should have never died. You're
No,
absolutely
it was
right.
he died in vain. He died in vain. They knew who the murderer was for 2 years. Not only the Bronx District Attorney, but the police department. And Pix11 has covered those stories, and James Ford has done them with me numerous times. We've had this conversation, God knows how many times.
Yeah.
All right? And what have they done? Nothing. Unfortunately, I'm not going to let Junior's death go in vain, because now this attention that's come out has now put light onto the bigger problem. Right now, the main leader of the whole entire gang, he's out on bail. The Bronx DA's office let him out on bail for $100,000. He's involved in 5 different murders. Why is he walking in the street?
And I wanted to actually talk about that because some people often ask, and people are asking on Facebook right now, where are they getting the money for the bail? So in this New York Times article that came out today about the Trinitarios, they were saying that every time the Trinitarios have a meeting,
Yep.
they have to pay $5 to attend that meeting. It's like their dues for every time there's a meeting.
That's
and then
correct.
they use that money to pay bails. They also use it to pay commissary costs in jail, Pampers for their children, parties, drugs. Is that accurate?
That's exactly
But none of
accurate.
this is new to gangs. Why are we acting like this is so
But this is
to
new-
This
okay.
is not new to
No,
gangs.
no, but
It's not new to
gangs have been
gangs.
doing this since
It's
they
new
started.
I understand what you're saying, but people at home may not understand the full aspect of a gang life. So the whole point of this is to educate some people on where exactly the
see,
Trinitarios
they
came
And on
from.
how organized they
And-
are. I
and
think a
the
lot of
They're
people
Trinitarios
more
are very-
organized than Clorox.
No, but they're more organized than the Bloods, and I'll tell you why. Because one, they hold a party every year. All the boroughs, even New Jersey comes to it, and they generate money to bail people out of jail or to put money in the commissaries. The Trinitario operates on kidnapping, extortion, murder, and narcotics. This is their primary revenue source, okay? But they also throw parties, and they recruit ages from 11 to 16 in school, mostly dropouts and so forth. And they get the kids to drop out. They entice them with money and girls.
But isn't that part of the problem though when they go into Rikers that they can't be put into something like punitive because of the
Absolutely.
age? So because they're teenagers and punitive no longer exists.
None of the ones who did this to this young man are we able, because of the mayor's policy of solitary confinement, as you called it, eliminating that, not one of these 12 could be put in punitive segregation because they're 21 and younger. And they know exactly what to do. Don't think they don't have
That's
gang
why they
members
target
who are
them.
older than 21.
Exactly right.
But they'll have the younger ones do certain things because nothing's going to happen to them. You can walk off the street, and if I was an inmate, you can put money in my commissary. You could put you could put whatever you want to put. I don't even have to know you. You could walk off the street and visit me, although we don't know each other. So these are rules and things that agencies like the Board of Corrections continuously fight for. They say, how do they communicate? They communicate. Right now, there's a thing with the Board of Corrections where they want the inmates now to go back to getting free phone calls. It's to the point where they had to pay for the call. Now they want free phone calls. When we had free phone calls, we had problems inside the jails.
Were these 12? I hear what you're saying. Do you understand if those 12 were they all offered bail, or they were there?
No, that
No.
all the bail was remanded.
They were
Yeah.
not. So,
Yeah.
Thank God.
I just want to be very clear in what we were saying here, because I don't have the NYPD's response or the
Sure.
mayor's response to this case. So what you're saying is one of those 12 that was arrested was involved in prior crimes, was tipped off to the police. in
Not
the
prior
past.
crime, in 2 prior murders.
Probably
He's
all.
seen on the Pix 11 video chasing Han Suarez in 2012.
And did he serve time for that?
No, they didn't even arrest him for that. They only arrested 2 murderers in that case, and I had a fight to make that happen. And again, James Ford covered those stories.
Right.
You know, right now there's 12 under arrest. There should be 15. Plus, don't forget the Bronx River stabbing. We have another 15, and it goes back to what you were saying before, James. The faction group was called Southie. There's 3 Trinitario groups in New York. You have the Sunset group, which is out of Sunset Park, Brooklyn. You have the Southie group, which comes from West Brooklyn, which was run by Diego Suarez. He's currently in jail right now.
He's one of the 12 being indicted today.
Okay.
You have Sunset Group, which is the leader of all of them for New York City. That's Ediberto Santana. He's walking the streets now. He's out on street now for attempted murder, arson for burning down a house, trying to burn people alive, and June 4th, he got a new case for a loaded firearm. He made over a $200,000 bail on each one. Why the Bronx released him? It's beyond me. It's insanity. Okay? Now you also have Southie, Sunset, and another one called 8-Town, which is a younger group of Trinitarios, which is located in the Bronx. So you have 3 main groups here. Southie is the one that killed Junior, and then Sunset Park is upset at Southie for killing Junior. So they're actually at war with each other. This is what's going on.
Right. All right. Last words as we wrap this up today. I'll start with you, Elias.
I think that although we're talking about the Trinis, I think that for the public, in New York City, in the last 4 years, more than 5,000 New Yorkers have been slashed, cut, or stabbed in New York City. That seems to be the weapon of choice now for all the gangs, not guns, slashing. I think we should really, really pay attention. I think that the public have to tell the mayor that his policies, as far as bail reform and all these other things that they're fighting for, and this one shouldn't be arrested, and if they're arrested, all of this stuff have to stop, because we're going to have a lot more juniors, and we're going to have a lot more. I mean, look, after Junior, how many other cases have we had of shootings and stabbings and murders?
I hope you're wrong, unfortunately. Not to disagree with you. I hope you're wrong and we don't have more juniors.
But it's happening.
Okay,
Well,
Manny?
You know, one of the things that we need to do in Junior's case, now that everybody is aware of it, is that we need to have strong social awareness programs. We need to have commercials, kind of like what you have right now. It says smoking kills, and it shows the result of smoking. Well, we need to have commercials showing to kids, if you join a gang, you're going to get killed, you're going to end up in jail, or you're going to get hurt and maimed. Your life is going to get destroyed. We need to have these social awareness commercials and programs where these kids can turn to, so they don't turn to the gangs and join them. That's something the city needs to do. And not only that, we need to be proactive. Unfortunately, and I've said it over the years, the police department and the Department of Corrections and the DA's office are reactive. We need to be proactive. We need to save our youth.
Okay. And James, do you want to tip some people off to some important reporting, or you want to hold off?
Look, I can say this. Look, we are working on another piece that does a deeper dive into Trinitario culture, its presence at Rikers, and its effect on communities across New York City. And I think it will be well worth viewing. And it's a lot of work.
Next week.
And Manuel Gomez working with us on that project as well.
That's coming next week.
Yes.
And you're headed to court today.
And yeah, that's worth saying too. Yeah, today I'm about to head to court as soon as this ends. And look, even though we have these 12 indictments being unsealed, this may not, as we've been pointing out in this discussion, may not be the end of the Junior Guzman Feliz case.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming in today. This was an incredible discussion, and thank you all for viewing at home.
you.
We're going to stay close on top of this story, because it's something that obviously our audience cares about, we care about as a station, and so stay with Pix 11 for the very latest in this case and so much more. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you. How did it go?
I got to check.